Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Bradley Schneller, owner and CEO of Stack Coaching. I have with us a super special guest. She's been visiting us for 2 weeks, all the way from New Zealand, Libby Robertson. Libby, why did you come to New Orleans?
Well, we've been here for 2 months, so 2 weeks. It feels like 2 weeks, but it was actually 2 months. Thank you for having me. So we came to New Orleans because number one, we felt like an adventure, and number two, we've set up a life where we can literally be anywhere. We're location independent, and number three, my husband used to play rugby in New Orleans before we met, like 13 or 14 years ago. And so we're like, we've got a community here. It's such a great vibe. Oh my gosh, like every single person that we meet, like our first interaction, for everyone that's listening, just to give you an insight into the NOLA community and Bradley, it's like I was going for a run along the levee, along Mississippi, and I was looking for a gym to go to while we were here for 2 months. And I saw Stacked Coaching. So I'm running, I've got my bum bag, or I think you call them fatty packs, and I'm getting out my phone and I'm like, Stacked Coaching, what is this? And I put in an inquiry. I don't even, like, I'm still on the run. I get home, I've got a text from you, Bradley, and I hadn't even responded. I hadn't even showered, and I think you called me, and then I get a text from you like, hey, nice work on your sobriety. Great to have you here in NOLA, and like, welcome to our community. And I was like, that right there is Southern hospitality in business. So
Awesome.
yeah.
All right, well, hold that thought, Libby. Every time I see that, I can't believe that I made it.
It's so good. Did you make that?
I did make it.
It's so cool. I love it.
That's awesome. So, all right. So you chose New Orleans based off of first of all, I'm going to go back. You said location independent. You and your husband are location independent. It's interesting. I just saw this thing across my Twitter feed or my X feed about all these couples being location independent. And I'm like, that is amazing. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So we both had careers in corporate, and I don't know, I can't remember what was happening, but I was just like, I mean, you probably get this. Like, I was not living the life that I really wanted to live. And it was raining, and I was like, I just can't be bothered going to work. And I looked outside, I'm like, sitting at the dining room table, I'm like, there must be a way where I can work from home. Like, I'm pretty, probably like you
Right.
as an entrepreneur, right? Like, I'm pretty crazy, and I'm just like, if I want something, I'm going to find a way to make it happen. And so this was in 2016, 2017. I just decided to give up drinking. I was changing my whole entire life, and I'm like, there must be a way. And fast forward probably 2 years from that moment, I had started an online blog, and people that it was about how I'd gotten sober and how I'd gone from this crazy party girl to living this life that no one back then, I knew anyone who didn't drink. That was just unheard of. And they're like, Libby, like, we met in the bathrooms at a nightclub, and you got us kicked out, and now you're sober. Like, what?
Wow.
And like, how did you do that? And I see you, like, you're looking really good. You're looking after your health. You're living this really positive life. You're sharing your story online. Can you help? And so I started coaching when I was working a job in corporate. I was coaching for free. I would start my days and I would write a piece of content for Instagram. And then in my lunch breaks, I would be coaching people for free. And then on my weekends, I'm running free workshops.
What were you coaching then?
Back then it was around people who, I wouldn't necessarily call it like rock bottom with their drinking, but they knew that drinking was getting in, and taking drugs, it was getting in the way of life.
Now, Libby, were you an alcoholic or you just decided to stop drinking?
Well, yeah, I was drinking 3, 4, 5 times a week. I couldn't go a week without drinking. I would be blacking out every time that I was drinking. So I was like, 9 out of 10 alcoholic, like if you do the
Right.
alcoholic test. And I went to a few recovery meetings, but I was like, for me, it was easier to start to think like a sober person rather than, oh, I'm an alcoholic in recovery. I'm like, well, I'm not recovering who I was because I started drinking when I was 13 years old. I'm discovering who I am. So most people who are going through an addiction recovery call it recovery, and I started to call it discovery. And that mindset and that approach, like I think that there's a very forward way of thinking rather than going back and looking at what could have been. It's like, okay, I'm messed up big time in life. What can I do? What can I do about that?
It's really interesting that we're having this conversation right now. Like, it couldn't be more timely, because, like, as we speak, I have a family member who is in the ICU with, like, uh I don't even know what it is, but I mean, it's definitely liver disease and high ammonia levels, was incapacitated over the weekend. And
Mm,
I remember talking to my girlfriend about it, and she was like, Bradley, this only happens two ways: one, like alcohol or drug abuse, or like congenital, right? And I'm like, wow, I mean, he's not an alcoholic, like that, or he doesn't do this. Like, there's no way. That's not him. Turns out, he's 39 years old, and
mm,
nobody knew. No one
no.
knew.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Like, I mean, I feel like it's a little bit different for you. Like, he hit it pretty well. You're out there raging, right? But it's like interesting, like the different ways this can affect people, and no one knows how big of an actual problem it can be.
Yeah, and that and I think that because it's so widely accepted, like I mean, New Orleans, like this is party central, and so you can hide. Like for me, I hid my addiction through just a love of socializing, so it was accepted. And I think that's the same for most people that do have a drinking problem or a drug problem. It's like, well, you're just a good time. You just love to have fun. And that's how we catch up. Like you go out for dinner, it might be a Monday night, and it's normal to have a couple of glasses of wine or beer. But for someone who's got an addiction, that is an excuse, right? So it's like, how can I fuel my addiction? And if I don't have anyone to go out with, then I'm going to buy a few bottles of whatever I'm drinking,
Whatever. Yeah.
tequila, whatever, and I'm just going to have to drink that at home by myself. But and everyone's got different, when you're experiencing an alcohol addiction, everyone's got different ways of masking it, but it's so commonly accepted that we often don't know until something terrible happens. I hope that he's okay, and I hope that
Thank
his
you.
health returns.
You
Yeah.
know, it's interesting, because I look all the time, and I feel like health coaching, and essentially what you're doing, Libby, is health coaching.
I've never heard it put that way, which is
But
hilarious.
you are,
Yeah,
right? Like, you are helping people to a better health, especially when it came to that. Now, I know we'll get
yeah,
into what you do now, and it's a little bit different, but
yeah,
back then you were health coaching people, right? Like, if we talk about
yeah,
the damaging effects of alcoholism,
yeah.
right, or overuse or substance
Mhm.
abuse, right, and like what that can do, to your health. I mean, you turning people around. You were a wellness coach. You didn't even know it, right?
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
wild when you think about
So I
that.
think about it though, and I think about it in terms of, this is the one area where, and I think financial coaching is similar, where you have to live that life in order to be able to help someone,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Because it's hard for someone to understand, the plight of a obese person if they were never overweight.
Totally. Yeah.
Right? And it's hard, like, I could never coach someone on alcoholism, or coming out of that, or changing that addiction pattern, like, because I don't
Yeah,
know what that's completely foreign to me. I
yeah.
can open my fridge and I'm like, "I think I want a beer," and then I'm like, Nah, it's like Tuesday." Like
Great self-control, yeah.
right, like, no, I mean, like, that would taste good right now, but, like, I got other stuff I need to do today, right?
That's the self-control of a normal person, like, so
Right, right. And so, like, people that have been lean their entire life,
Mhm.
or muscular, or whatever the situation is,
Right.
they don't know the psyche of someone who is not, right? And so, like, when it comes to substance abuse, you were able to challenge, or take what you learned and overcame, and
Yeah.
now help others with it. So how did you make that choice? That's it. That's a wrap.
Well, yeah, like actually, I did have a rock bottom moment where I found myself in hospital, and it's pretty heavy. Can I go there? Can I
Yeah.
share that? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. So when I was drinking, like most people, like you just drink so much, my eyes would glaze over. I would black out. I wouldn't remember where I was, what I was doing, who I was. There was a night, or so many nights, where I would threaten to take my life when I was drunk. And one night I threw myself, after a big night out, I threw myself out of there was 2-story window, and I landed on concrete. The ambulance came, the police came, and I found myself in hospital. I wasn't allowed to sleep because they were not sure what had happened. And so I had a neck brace on, and I had a hospital gown on, and I had no pants, like no
Wow.
dignity. All my dignity was
Right.
gone. And I've got this nurse shining a light in my eyes, and I'm coming to. I'm like, what is happening? Where am I? What's going on? And long story short, Dane, who's my husband, we were just dating at that stage, and he was like, we had so many situations where it was like, if I keep drinking, I'm going to lose another relationship
Right.
because of this problem. So he wasn't at the hospital. He called my parents. The police were like, it was a mess. And I'm like, where is Dane? My mum's at the corner of the bed. There is mental health nurses around me. What is happening? And the nurses told me they're like, you tried to end your life last night, and that's not normal behavior. And my mum's sitting there, she's in tears, like
Right.
watching her daughter go through this. I'm like, where's my boyfriend? He's gone because he can't handle your drinking. And yeah, that's awful, but it like just you've broken it now. You've done too
Right.
much. And so my mum's sitting there, she goes, Libby, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, she's not talking about what am I gonna do in an hour from now. She's talking about with my life. Like,
Oof. Yeah.
and so I'm sitting there, and in that moment, it was like, I don't know. Have you ever been in one of those situations, Brad, where you're like, I don't know what I'm saying right now, but I know that once I've said it, I can't take it back. Have you ever had one of those?
I mean, for the majority of my life. I mean, not anymore. I think now before I speak. But for a long time, I just said it and was like, oof.
So that was one of those moments where it was like, I was in the hospital. Everyone's watching, like, what is she going to do? And my mum's going, what are you going to do? I'm like, I can never drink again. And as I'm saying these words, right, I'm someone, I love to party. I'm going out all the time. Like, as I'm saying these words, I'm like, nope, like, take that back, take that back.
Right.
I knew in that moment, that was it. And I haven't had a drink since, and that was 8 years ago.
Did you have to go to AA or you did it on your own?
I did go to a few AA meetings, but I'm so big on mindset and manifestation and the words that we're using. So going a couple of times a week to say, I am an alcoholic, when I was like, well, I was, but now I'm sober. I chose a different path for myself.
I have a controversial question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Because I have a friend of mine who he's many years sober. Okay.
Yes.
And he no longer goes to AA meetings.
Yeah.
And some people frown. He has friends that frown upon that, right?
Of course.
And he's of the mindset that AA, or sometimes, and I could be misquoting this, but AA, while it's super helpful and amazing and helps a lot of people, they create this mindset that you were never not an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So can that be a problem for some people, or can you, like, is it better, or for some people, because we're all different, right, to overcome that, say, no, that's who I was, that's not who I am now, and move past that?
Yeah. So that's like, now I have to preface that because I can relate.
I know I'm really careful about saying this, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like AA works for so many, which
So
is
many
why
people.
it's been around for so long. I think it's like over 100 years old now. And so it clearly works.
Very much so.
Coming from a background of psychology and mindset, and I like, so AA is based on the beliefs. And again, I was only there for a couple of months, so I can't
Right.
say everything, but from my experience, it comes from the belief that it's a disease and you can't change who you are at your core. Now that contradicts every single thing that I stand for and believe in, because I believe that at our core we can change our neural pathways. I believe that we can change our entire reality. I believe that we can change who we are at the core when we do the work, right? Just like you going through your weight loss journey and your
Yep.
health journey, right? Like you used to identify as a certain type of person. Now you identify as someone who's fit, strong, healthy. You know, you nourish your body, you nurture your body. Like there's so much that goes into that
I
transformation.
think that also can be true for a lot of things, especially people with
Yeah,
like victim mentality,
100%. Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
instead of
Yeah,
facing like, all right, I did this. This is who I like. I
yeah,
created this reality. I can change this reality.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, and so I believe with something like when you're in an environment, and the reason why I actually got out of AA was because I was surrounded. You know, I was a couple of months into my journey, and I was surrounded by people that had been in AA for 20 years, and it's so amazing to have a space to be able to share, like to
Right.
be witnessed in the shit that you've done when you're wasted is like so refreshing, right? It's like,
Right.
oh, there's nothing wrong with me. Okay, good. But to be doing that for 20 years, I was looking at people that have been in the program for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I'm like, I hope that when I was 25, nearly, I was 26 at that time. So I was like, I hope that when I'm 46 years old, I have a completely different reality. I hope that trying to stay sober isn't even a thing. I hope that's just a
It's just
part.
who you are at that point.
Exactly, exactly. So I knew that early on, and that was why I got out. So I think for your friend going through that, and like with, I mean, as humans, we've got such a herd mentality, right? If you're part of a club, you're part of that club, and you go by the rules and you go by, you know, their philosophies. And then if you try and create your own path, everyone that has had success with that particular philosophy, they're gonna share their beliefs or their opinions with you. If
Right.
that's
No, it's interesting because it's very similar to diet culture,
yeah,
right? Like so many people go on a diet and it's temporary, right? And then they like regain back or have to go on another diet, right? Instead of making it a lifestyle, right? So like it's stacked. We want it to be a lifestyle. Like, and I always talk about it like I don't want you to have to, and this is what you were saying with drinking, right? Like I don't want to have to live for my diet. I want my that to just be a part of what I do, right? It's who I am. I just live this lifestyle. I don't need to change everything about myself in order to do that, right? And that's similar to what you're saying is like I'm just a sober person.
yeah, 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 literally. And it was just, and it's what, because I don't know how, like, how long did it take for you to identify as someone that's fit, healthy, strong, like the Bradley that we see today? How long did it take
You
you?
know, it's I would say I'm constantly working on it. Okay. Like really, because I was the my overweightness, I don't know if that's what you would say, like me being overweight,
I like
for
that.
most of my formative years and then like early adulthood, um, right up to, I'm 40 now, right up to like even owning a gym and still being not looking the way I'd wanted to, like shattered my confidence, my
Mhm.
self-confidence in so many ways that it's taken a decade to overcome. Um, and while I am a lot more self-confident now, um, and when I was at my leanest point, I had this like I didn't think about it anymore, right? Like I didn't think about eating, I didn't think about my body or any of this stuff like when I had reached the pinnacle of what I was trying to accomplish. But I also knew that that pinnacle that I accomplished was not sustainable.
Yes.
So as I backed it back down and I had feelings come back from when I was that chubby kid or that chubby adult or this or afraid to take your shirt off at a pool, right? Like those types of things. I knew that, you know, I I work out, I eat well, Okay. If most people looked at me, they're going to be like, that guy is pretty fit. And I'd probably say like everyone would say that. And I'm not trying to like pat myself on the back, right? Except I wasn't the one saying it.
Mm.
So I had to fix whatever that was, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, sometimes we overcompensate in some areas for other areas we lack. And it wasn't how I looked at myself in the mirror that was creating a lack of self-esteem, right? It was like this area in my life, this area in my life, this area in my life. And I'm like, well, if I don't look like a male model, then I'm terrible. But the reality was, as soon as I started fixing all these other things around it, I became really comfortable with who I was and how I looked.
Yes. Yeah. Such an identity shift, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
like, yeah, the origin of self-acceptance, and I call it self-love, whether you want to call it like whatever you call it. It's, being confident in who you are.
Yeah.
And
And it's interesting. Like when we do health coaching with people, weight loss coaching, whatever, right? Like the how you look in the mirror, scale, body composition, performance goals, those four things. Okay.
yeah.
They're metrics, right? Like we
Mhm.
use those to measure success, but that is not success, right?
Correct.
Success is fixing this inside,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So those things keep us up and motivated while we
Mhm.
do the hard work underneath in getting from point A to point B.
Yes. 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 Yeah. Like you're changing your internal state, your identity, your beliefs, how you see yourself, and then your external starts to reflect that.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
much so. So how did you or like what did the coaching look like for you once you got into it and you started coaching people to um become sober,
Mhm.
right? Like, or would you call it rock bottom something?
Um, yeah, they were at rock bottom. It was, yeah, rock bottom to purpose, I think, was like the first A to B that I would take people, changing their reality from exactly that, like changing the internal state, looking at the origin of, why, like, 'cause the thing that I'm always curious about is addiction, any sort of addiction, whether it's food, whether it is exercise, whether it is drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, whether it, like, whatever it is always rooted in an absence of love. And so if we can address what the absence of love is, and like you're speaking about it from self-acceptance and self-confidence, when we can address that, everything shifts. And so when I started doing that, it was working initially with people who I don't even know if they would say that they had a drinking problem, but they would definitely tell me that alcohol is getting in the way of their life. And
Hmm.
so it became very much lifestyle coaching. So someone's got a problem over here. It's probably like with health, it's probably filtering out into every other area of life as well, confidence in your job and your career. And so it stepped very much into purpose coaching. So it's like, right, if we can heal your addiction, what's left and who are you now? And what, like, once you've done that, cool, great. Now you've got all this free time and money and like an energy.
What's next?
There you go. What's next? Yeah.
Right.
So it kind of shifted into purpose, and then it's just been very organic. And I think the same as your journey as well. And anyone that is in any sort of like service industry, the more that you go on your own journey, the bigger capacity that you've got to support someone in their transformation. So the different, the holistic modalities that you're able to offer is expanded and not just in one specific
You
area.
know, it's interesting what you just said because I had a conversation with a performance coach a few weeks ago and we were just
Yeah.
chatting back and forth, right?
Cool.
And he said, you can only coach people as far as you've gone yourself.
Mhm, mhm.
And I thought, I mean, that's powerful stuff, right? Like in terms of from a coaching aspect to continue to dig deep and work on yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
how did you transition or what did that transition look like? I mean, you started seeing you were freeing up these people's times that was your client. Okay. You said you had a psychology background. Is that correct?
Yeah, a degree in just an undergrad degree in psychology, but that it helps when you're dealing with people.
Right. Right. And so you make this shift to I guess you said like mindset coaching, right?
Mhm.
For
Yeah,
those who don't know, Libby was featured on CEO magazine, right?
yeah, correct.
Right? Top 40 entrepreneurs under 40, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Amazing. What was that like for you?
That was thank you very much. That was cool. It's interesting because I think we like talking about just going back to the conversation we were having before around success, right? Like there's little things that happen on your journey where you're like, oh, that's cool. But no amount of external success will ever be able to take away or create the feeling that I feel within because of who I've become. So, like anything extra like that, like a media feature or something cool like that, it's like, oh, that's nice. But like with or without that, I know that I'm being the best version of me and I'm helping a lot of people on the way. And
Well,
and
because
that
in the
is it.
reality, like
It's
a year after that magazine comes out, like no one's talking about it, seeing it, thinking about
no,
it. It's a fleeting moment, which it's more of
no.
like, yeah, it's like, hey,
Yeah.
amazing. Like I feel good about it. Let's keep
Yeah.
going.
Literally. Yeah. It's like you kind of you get these highs, right? Like an addiction, you're always chasing a high. And so some of the like so much of the work that I've done and that I'll still do with especially in business, right? Like we're always chasing the next high, the next high, like what's the next milestone. But those can be fleeting. Those can be like so far and few between, especially in the first 5 years of doing something, right? It's like, okay, cool, a win. Work hard, work hard, work hard, or with training, right? Like,
Right.
okay, cool, I hit my goal. But until you hit the goal or until you hit the external proof of success, how are you creating happiness for yourself? How are you creating success for yourself? And so that moment that that article came out, it was like, okay, yeah, that's nice. And then the next day, that high had completely disappeared. So yes,
You
I
know
think
what it's like the most successful people love the grind.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? Like, it's not the awards, is they love the grind, you know? Nick's I don't know if Libby, if you know who Nick Saban is. He's an American football coach, college football coach. Everybody else knows who I'm talking about, okay? And he always talks about the process,
Yeah.
right? And it's about loving the process. And if you're not worried about the play by play by play by play throughout the day, you're never going to reach that end result, right? But you have to love the process in order to be in it.
Yeah. So it's interesting you say, like, so one of the ways that I approach life, that I approach business is the same way that I got sober. And it's one day at a time.
Right.
Like no matter what, whether it's training, whether it's health, whether it's fitness, whether it's nutrition, like whatever you're focusing on, it's never gonna happen, you know, like you're literally living every single day. And if you're constantly waiting for the goal to arrive or for you to achieve the certain level of health that you want or the metrics that you're using to measure your success, whatever journey you're on, like you're always going to be waiting. So if you can live one day at a time and focus just on that, like get a little bit better every day and improve yourself every single day, over time that's compounded and the results become exponential.
That's amazing. And one of the things I think, especially in 2024, like in the society that we live in today, we forget to live in the moment. Right. And I mean, like, time flies. Right. I have two little kids. I have a 6-year-old girl and I have a 10-year-old boy. And if you're always thinking about that next moment, like
Mm.
you forget to think about the moment you're in, and just enjoy it. Right. Like we're talking about enjoying the process, but look at how many people are looking to the next thing in life instead of just enjoying the mundane.
Mm. Yes. Yeah, that right there. Because before you know it, like I imagine you see this with your kids as well. The time, like if you're constantly waiting for the next, the time is gone. And it's such an important piece around health, well-being, mindset, creating transformation is coming back to what can you be grateful for now? Like even if life feels like it's a mess, how can you bring a tiny bit of appreciation into today, into this moment, into what you already have? And that again, it compounds and it magnetizes more of that. So yeah.
With your coaching, and I'm curious, Libby, is like, what do you see as the most common roadblocks or obstacles people have to overcome in order to be fully who they are?
Yeah. So what I see in it, like anyone from any walk of life, and you probably see this in the gym or in your community as well, or even in yourself, like every single human being, whether it's the CEO of a multi-million dollar company or a single mom who's just wanting to make a better life for herself and her kids, everyone struggles with the belief that they're not good enough.
Yeah.
Everyone. And so if we can remember, right, at the heart of it, at the core of it, that no matter who you are or what you've done or what your journey has entailed, that exactly as you are, you're good enough to be here, you're good enough to achieve whatever it is that you want, or you're good enough to be loved exactly as you are. That, like, there's always going to be a lot of shit that happens in life, but if you can remember that and build on that and discover all the reasons why you are good enough, and just remember that the fact that you exist is proof that you're good enough, right?
Right.
The universe doesn't make mistakes. Like, look at all the things that required to keep you alive. Like, there is no mistake that you're here, and if you can remember that, I believe that we can overcome anything with that.
Do you give anyone tasks or homework in order to help them accomplish that?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Is there
So
anything you could share without, giving away the secret sauce, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. No, of course, my pleasure. So one of the tools that I love to use is, and again, we're going to go deep, right? I'm not here for fluffy. We're not here for
yeah,
fluffy.
I like deep.
We're
Yeah.
going to go deep. And so one of the tools that you can use, if you're like, okay, I know that's something that I struggle with. I don't feel like I'm good enough. Something that you can do is write down, or you can visualize this, just depending on how you like to operate. Write down all of the times that you remember being rejected.
Hmm.
There might be a lot, there might be just the subconscious, and your body holds so much memory. So even if you're like, I can't really remember it, just grab pen to paper and your subconscious will start to bring memories. It's just how it works. Once you've got that, what I want you to remember is, in that moment, you took someone else's way of being as truth about yourself, right?
Yeah.
And if in that moment that you're remembering, you've written down, okay, I remember being rejected when I was 3 years old and my mum didn't celebrate the artwork that I did at kindergarten, right? That's a sense of rejection. And so what happens is, as a child, you've adopted that sense of rejection as, I'm not good enough. And as you were talking about before about overcompensating, we overcompensate in other areas. So what I want you to do, once you've discovered all of these memories, all of these times that you were rejected or you experienced a sense of rejection, is I want you to imagine that you're either speaking to that version of you, so that 3-year-old or that 12-year-old or whatever age it is that you remember. And I want you to tell them that you have taken that person's reaction or response as a reason that you're not good enough. And in this moment, I want you to remember that you are in the driver's seat of your life, and you get to decide every single thing that you think about yourself and about the world. And so instead of saying, okay, that person rejected me at that time, that means I'm not good enough, I want you to acknowledge that that person was going through their life, doing whatever they're doing. They're making their decisions. You're now an adult, right? We forget as adults that we actually have power over every single thing that goes on internally in a mindset way within us. You're now an adult. You get to make all your own decisions. And so what are you now deciding to choose to believe about yourself? Right? And even the belief of, I am good enough, I am accepted, I am loved, I belong. I no longer take on the truth of whatever someone else's experience brought into my belief about myself. Right? It's a reclamation of power. I would normally do that as a visualization for
Yeah.
someone as well, but hopefully that's just some pointers to
Yeah.
start.
I love that. And like, you could start by, journaling that on a daily, weekly basis, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. it's not exactly the same, but I saw this on Twitter the other day. I love Twitter. It's my favorite social media. I don't know why. It's so toxic, but it's also like amazing at the same time, right? Like at least I'm aware of that. Okay. Uh, or it's X, but I'm always going to call it Twitter. Okay. But they were talking about how, and I follow a lot of people like you, Libby, a lot of mindset people, performance coaches, those types of things. And they're talking about how, like, when you see someone do something on the road when you're driving, that might be road rage or something like that. They shoot you the bird, curse at you, cut you off, whatever, beep the horn, whatever it might be. Okay. Um, and the point of it was like, try not to let that dictate your actions, because you don't know exactly what they're going through in that moment, as it might be the worst day of their life. Like
Exactly.
something might just happen. Like you have no idea. And promise, if you let whatever happen go,
Yes.
you're not going to think of that person the rest of the day. They're certainly not going to think of you, right? And then you could just move past it, right? Like there's no harm, no foul here, right? Like they had a reaction to whatever there's going on in their life. It does not affect you in any way. You can let it go and move on, rather than you reacting. And now you're thinking about that for the rest of the day, or it's escalating into something much worse.
Yes, yes, yes. And just adding on that as well, whenever, like your experience, someone brings you something, you're like, it kind of aggravates something within you and you get like into the state of reaction. I always love to think like, hang on, I respect myself and my life and my day too much to let you or that situation control my vibe, like, or my
Yeah,
emotions. Like,
I'm
I,
with you.
yeah.
It's interesting. Like if I had to tell you my biggest flaw, my
What,
biggest
go
character
on, hit us. What is
my
it?
biggest character flaw is, and people say this, people close to me say this, is that I am too reactionary.
I
You
love
know,
that you know that.
um, the interesting thing is, for those of you who don't know who are close to me now, is it's way better than what it used to be. Way better.
Know
But it right,
that.
like there are things I don't react to at all anymore, and then there are still things that get me hot, right?
Yeah.
Um, the interesting thing, and we could talk about this, is that I find that a lot of my problems with reactions are created from my inability to create solid boundaries around myself.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It's like I I take something because I'm afraid to say no. Might be a
Yeah.
people pleaser. I'm afraid to say no. I can't do this. I can't do that. So I do it, take a call, help out, help out, help out, help out, and then I'll lose my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
You reach the threshold.
Right. And there's
Yeah.
no turning back from that. So that's how reactions can hurt, because now that person's pissed off at me. Like, other than, and I'm pissed off about it, we might not talk again. But like, rather than if I had solid boundaries in the beginning, we'll always be on equal footing with each other.
Do you, before you get to that reactive moment, do you feel a buildup of resentment
Oh,
before,
of
like,
course.
yeah,
Of
yeah,
course. There's at the beginning, I'm just trying to be helpful.
yeah,
I'm there for you. Good times, Bradley, you know?
yeah,
Right. And then like it slowly builds up, as I feel like the relationship is very one-sided, right?
yes.
It slowly builds up, and then I'm like, "Gah."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's like, honestly, that like as soon as you start feeling resentment, I always like, if I feel resentment happening, like, because I used to be the same. It's like resentment, resentment, keep the peace, keep the peace, keep the peace, and then
Right?
explosion. And I always tell people, I tell my clients, like, if you're feeling resentful, that's a sign that your boundaries are being overstepped. But the most important thing is you're actually allowing your boundaries to be overstepped right now.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
super interesting, and it's something to um work on for sure. So do you mostly do mindset coaching with women or everyone?
Yeah, so I do. Probably 80% of my clients are women. I do work with, yeah, like 15 to 20% men at any different time. what I find is women are naturally more drawn to self-improvement and self-betterment. And I have a very feminine way of approaching things. Like I'm very much about get in tune with your whole holistic body system, your emotions, your mind, your energy. And some men want to learn more about that, but other men are like, I want to know the logic. I want to know the rationale. I want to know the 12-step process. And so, yeah,
I mean,
mostly
both
women.
can be beneficial, right? Like, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like you could have a little of both, right? You know, and then obviously some people gravitate towards one to the other. You know,
exactly.
what am I building off of what you just said about women wanting to do, you know, this process, self-improvement, those types of things, and then coupled with what we just spoke about, right? Like not such reactionary, but judging ourselves based off of what other people are saying or the what did
Mm,
we call it? I forgot.
the
Not
reaction,
no. Before that, I can't recall. Not the disappointment, but rejection,
rejection. Yeah.
rejection. Right? How big of a problem? And I feel like this is probably more slanted towards women or females than males. Okay,
Mm,
um, is social media creating this problem? And look, I'm on social media. You're on
yeah.
social media. We do it for our business, right?
Yeah.
Like I do it. I don't like it, but I do it, right? I do like posting pictures of my kids, me and my girlfriend on the beach. Hey, what's up, right? But like, I'm not like someone to document my life. However, I find myself on that Explorer page on Instagram or every now and then scrolling, right? And it does affect how
Yeah.
we judge ourselves in our lives instead of being able to judge ourselves based off of what we actually want, not what is self-imagined for us.
Yes. Yeah. There's two angles from this. Like one is women are very good at processing their emotions,
Yeah.
right? Like if a woman is feeling jealous or rejected or judged by her followers, let's say, or by she goes on Instagram and she's feeling
Peers, friend group, whatever it might be.
totally. She's going to process that. And so it might take a while, it might stay with her, but she's going to express it. And emotions are energy in motion. So, in order for us to be in our highest state of well being, our highest state of mental well being and mental health and confidence and who we are, we have to process our emotions, right? Otherwise, if we don't, it's going to stay trapped and we're going to spend a lot of our subconscious energy trying to maintain that that energy in motion that hasn't been in motion because we've suppressed it. Men, on the other hand, you're not so good at that as a gender, like stereotypically, even if a woman is more masculine in how she's programmed, she's probably not necessarily going to process all of the emotions. But stereotypically, men are more likely to suppress their emotions. And it's not like you're going to call your buddies, probably, I mean, maybe you are, but be like, man, it's just I'm just feeling really jealous right now. I'm feeling excluded. I'm feeling like, how many of your conversations that you have with your male buddies start with I'm feeling?
I mean, more so in the past like 3 years than in the first 37 years of my life.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And so now I think I personally believe social media, when we learn how to use it, has a really beneficial way of life
What
because
is that way?
what's that?
What is that way?
So that what I believe is if we can, first of all, change ourselves, right? Remove anyone that's not bringing a positive experience on social media. So a lot of unfollowing, a lot of, whether it's you keep a private account and block anyone that's not bringing
Positive
positive
energy.
to your
Yeah.
life. And what I believe is we are able to access conversations like this, that 20 years ago, we might be going through a life transformation and you're like, well, where's the nearest gym or the nearest health and wellness community that I can join? Well, now we can jump on social media and we can use it for a positive effect. But with conversations like this and more men having, like people like you who are openly talking about, hey, guys, it's all right to speak about our feelings. It's all right to process, or at least to have emotions, and create an environment where that's normalized and healthy. I think is some of the way that we can start this in the right
Love
direction.
that. You know, it's interesting when we're kids, right? We're told that when a bully or a peer is making fun of you, right? Like it's not about you, it's about them. However, we forget that as adults, as teenagers, as adults,
Yeah.
right? And I really think it takes a long time for someone to realize or come back to you, especially in this age of social media where everything's kind of been like jacked up for the last decade, right? Or longer. Okay. Where when someone is making a negative comment, okay, about you, about something
Mm,
you've done, about a picture you posted, a success, like if someone's judging your success that you post, okay, that you share, right? Or you share this or that that you feel really good about, um, they're having to deal with themselves. Like
mm,
that's about them. It's
mm.
not about you.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's got an opinion. I don't know if you're the same. Like, opinions like assholes. Everyone's
Yeah,
got.
everybody's got one, right? And
It's
look,
like,
I'm
thanks.
not into totally sharing my entire day. Like I'm not into that. I don't do that, right? Like if that's for you, that's for you. Okay.
Mm,
Um, and I do think that we're at an age of society where we are letting our lives play out on social media in order for social credit rather
yeah.
than living in this world.
Yeah, that right there. That right there, like that comes back to, and this is, I think, the work that we both do is like, can you love and accept yourself exactly as you are and get that feeling of success and validation from yourself and from your current experience of the present moment with appreciation and with gratitude without needing to have any external validation at all? Anything that you do share, are you willing to have people share their opinions on it? And if not, then why are you sharing it?
I love that. I love that. Okay. Um, Libby, I just have a few quick questions. Okay. We'll wrap this puppy up so it's not too long. Okay. And I love what you just said. Um, Tell me about your time in New Orleans. Where's your favorite part?
Oh, hands down the people. Honestly, New Orleans, there is a culture here that is just, like we're gonna be back. It feels like a soul home
How is
here.
it different from New Zealand?
I think there is a drive that I don't know if it's across all of America, but definitely in New Orleans, there is this energy of like, let's go out and make it happen, whatever. Like, and maybe that's just the environments that we're in, spending time at Stacked and everyone's just like so driven and so let's get it done. But it feels so motivating. It feels like there is a permission to express yourself, and there's the tiniest detail that I'll give you an example. The gym, like at Stacked, everyone wears colors, colorful tights, colorful clothes. I mean, yeah, you're always going to get blacks and whites and neutrals, but there's a
Right.
lot of color. In New Zealand, you go to the gym and most people are wearing black or neutrals, or they're all
Right.
dressed the same. And just these little things to showcase the culture and the permission to be yourself. That, yeah, I think
You know,
it's
I love that you picked up on that. I mean, I wouldn't say the whole city is about getting it done. We got a lot of issues that we need to fix. But, my favorite thing about New Orleans too, and it's one of the things that keeps me here,
yeah. What
right?
is it?
Like, because there's a lot of bad shit about New Orleans, but one of the
Mm,
things that keep me here are the people.
yeah,
And it's kind of what I love most about New Orleans. I'm most about Mardi Gras,
yeah.
right? It's standing in the street with all kinds of different people of races, religions,
Mm,
creeds, like all these demographics of different people that you don't live with, you don't live in the same thing, you don't hang out with them in a certain thing. But on that street, waiting for that parade, we are all New Orleanians here to have fun, right? And I love that. That is my favorite part.
I got chills. That is so good. Yes, yes.
Awesome. So, what was your favorite food while you're here?
Don't judge me since we're having a conversation around health, but it
I'm
is beignets.
beignets. Okay.
I love them. I think they're good. I love, I don't know, it's all good though. Like the meats and the gum, like even just gumbo, like it's so simple, but it's so tasty. I
Yeah.
love. Yeah.
What is it? How different is it from your cuisine in New Zealand? I've never been to New Zealand. I'm hoping to go there soon. But how different?
I love that there is a specific New Orleans cuisine. Like we
Mhm.
don't really have this in New Zealand, and so there the flavors here and the richness, and also something that I've really observed is the connection that happens around food. So
Oh yeah.
I had my first crawfish boil the other
Oh
week.
yeah.
That was so much fun. And my favorite part about it, I mean, the crawfish was amazing, but it was the coming together, it was the preparing, it was the barbecue, it was the, the connections and the social aspect of it to, around food. So I think that's really cool.
I think that's what makes group fitness so effective.
Yes.
Right? It's the coming together around one idea to become healthier, to become fitter. We're all doing it together. We're all in this, okay? And it's what I love most about group fitness,
Mm.
and pat myself on the back. What I love most about Stacked, but it is amazing. So, you said you're location independent.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
So next we're actually we're going back to New Zealand. Well, right now we're about to go on a 3-week RV tour. So we're driving from we're flying from New Orleans to Illinois, and then we are driving across the country in an RV, finishing up in California. So we're going to go
Oh,
to each
awesome.
state along the way. So I'm going to be in an RV. I'm going to be running all my calls. We've got a coaching certification that we're doing at the moment. Like I'm going to be doing all my coaching calls in the back of an RV parked. I'm not going to be driving, but we're going to be doing that. And then we'll go back to New Zealand. And I'm hoping to get back out here actually either at the end of this year or a year from now. And we may also be going up to Canada. We're just going to decide.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, Libby, what is your main clientele? Like, who are the people that are looking for you?
The main clientele is a female entrepreneur. She's either full-time in her business or she's still working a job wanting to go full-time in her business, but she is driven. She believes that she has a difference that she's here to make in the world. She believes that she has a really powerful story of her own transformation, and that her own transformation is able to help a lot of people. And she's looking for her next level of self-belief, her next level of strategy, her next level of confidence, and just like the next level of bringing her, it sounds cliche, but it's bringing her dreams into reality and making it happen.
This might sidebar us a little bit, but is there a commonality that you find that is like holds a ton of people back from hitting that next level of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, in entrepreneurship specifically, it's self-trust.
I was going to say
Because
that.
yeah,
Self-belief,
oh, you
self-trust.
just as well?
I was going to say self-belief, right? Like,
Yeah, self-belief and self-trust. Yeah, if you can work on those. As an entrepreneur, we're wired differently than a typical um, corporate mindset. We're creatives. And when we can give ourselves permission to let go of what we've learned about success or about building a business and trust that creativity and that innovation, and have the courage and the self-trust and the self-belief to bring our ideas and our creations, like doing this podcast, like that's like something it's so creative and amazing that you've got to put yourself out there and share your message and share your story. That takes a huge amount of
yeah, I love being an entrepreneur from the creative aspect, but also I'm an entrepreneur or a business owner because there's no way I could ever have a boss again. I just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I can't have someone telling me what to do.
Like, that's even a thing.
I know. Right?
I deal with that.
So, Libby, where can people find you?
Instagram's the best way. I'm on Facebook as well, but at the Libby Robertson is my personal Instagram, and that's the easiest way.
Yeah, and
I would love it if you did, if you said hello.
Yeah, I'm gonna post all your links for people to get in touch with you. They can book like a discovery call with you.
Yeah, we can just have a chat at the end. So
that's amazing. Well, Libby, I hope we do this again. I do hope you leave April 4th, right?
Yeah, we're actually leaving on Friday now, so on the 28th.
Like in 3 days?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully I see you tomorrow, man, because I'm out as well. So, All right, Libby, I hope we do this again. This was amazing. Thank you for doing this, okay?
Thank you for having me, and thanks everyone that's tuned in. This is great.
Awesome, y'all. Let's get stacked.
Woohoo.